Welcome back to The World Today from CGTN. I'm Jeff Moody in Beijing. United States Vice President Mike Pence is currently arriving in Japan for the second leg of his four-nation Asia tour. During his stay, Pence will attend a lunch with the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. The two are expected to discuss regional issues related to the DPRK, as well as Washington's and Tokyo's bilateral economic cooperation. Earlier, we spoke with our correspondent Terence Terashima in Tokyo, who told us more about Pence's visit to Japan.
Mike Pence is also is scheduled to meet with Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Taro Aso, and will be engaging in US-Japan economic dialogue, discussing the bilateral trade issues, etc. It's looking to be a very tough mechanism for Japan. Pence and Aso will kick off these talks, and they're not expected to go into much details, but rather trying to secure a pace for this dialogue. But experts expect Washington to put more pressure on Tokyo to open up Japanese markets for U.S. products, possibly tougher than in this bilateral negotiations than with the TPP negotiations that U.S. has pulled out of and Japan is engaging at the moment. And U.S. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross is also in Tokyo talking to his counterparts in various businesses. So this shows how interested the U.S. is in opening up the Japanese markets and bilateral negotiations between the two countries.
Well, earlier, US Vice President Mike Pence visited South Korea. The visit comes after the DPRK test-fired a ballistic missile which exploded soon after liftoff, with speculation of another possible nuclear test. For more on the trip and elevated tensions on the Korean Peninsula, our correspondent Shane Harm reports now from Seoul.
The U.S. policy of strategic patience with the DPRK is over. Those words according to U.S. Vice President Mike Pence, who is in South Korea on the first leg of a four-nation tour to Asia. With escalated tensions on the Korean Peninsula, the vice president signaled that the Trump administration will not tolerate a nuclear DPRK.
The United States and our allies have stood together for a denuclearized Korean Peninsula. We hope to achieve this objective through peaceable means, but all options are on the table. Just in the past 2 weeks, the world witnessed the strength and resolve of our new president in actions taken in Syria and Afghanistan. North Korea would do well not to test his resolve.
The vice president also reaffirmed his country's alliance with South Korea. With Seoul under an interim leadership, there had been concern that the U.S. could conduct a preemptive strike on the DPRK without consulting South Korean officials.
The alliance between South Korea and the United States is the linchpin of peace and security on the Korean Peninsula and indeed throughout the Asian Pacific. The United States' commitment to South Korea is ironclad and immutable.
During his meeting with South Korea's acting president Hwang Kyo-ahn, the two discussed ongoing plans to deploy the controversial THAAD anti-missile defense system. As long as the DPRK continues to develop its ballistic missile technology, the two allies confirming THAAD's installation despite opposition from neighboring countries like China and Russia.
We have agreed to further strengthen the readiness posture of the ROK-US alliance in response to the DPRK's growing threat by ensuring the early deployment and operation of the USFK's THAAD system.
From here, Mr. Pence travels to Tokyo for meetings with Japanese officials. Now, over the past 2 months, U.S. President Donald Trump has sent his defense chief, his Secretary of State, and now his vice president to South Korea and Japan, showing that the Trump administration remains committed to its allies in this volatile yet strategically important region. Shane Harm, CGTN, Seoul.
Well, in a rare interview with the BBC, the DPRK's Vice Foreign Minister Han Song-yeol said that the country will test missiles on a weekly, monthly and yearly basis in what they deem responses to aggression. Meanwhile, the DPRK has accused the United States of trying to start a nuclear war. The comments were made by the DPRK's UN ambassador at a meeting on Monday, who added that Pyongyang would respond to any provocation. This comes after Vice President Pence warned Pyongyang not to test America's resolve following this weekend's failed missile test. And for more on these tensions, our UN correspondent Li Lingtan has this report.
Warnings and threats were delivered by the DPRK at the United Nations Monday, just a day after Pyongyang tried to test fire another missile. Speaking to the UN press corps, the DPRK's deputy UN ambassador Kim In-ryong took aim at the US for trying to provoke a nuclear war on the Korean peninsula.
If the United States dared opt for the military actions, the crying out for preemptive air attack and the removal of the headquarters, the DPRK is ready to react to any mode of war desired by the American. We will hold the United States wholly accountable for the catastrophic consequences to be tailed by its outrageous actions.
Kim said the Trump administration's deployment of the U.S. Navy strike group led by the aircraft carrier USS Carl Vinson to waters of the Korean peninsula proves U.S. recklessness, and he accused the U.S. of a hostile war policy against the DPRK. Now, he also described the joint military exercises now ongoing between the U.S. and the Republic of Korea as the largest war drill aimed at his country, and that it proves once again the DPRK's pursuit of nuclear capability as self-defense is justified. To drive home that point, he said that 40 years ago, when the U.S. and the Republic of Korea began these joint drills, the DPRK did not have nuclear weapons, suggesting the nuclear program is a consequence of those exercises. Li Lingtan, CGTN, New York.
The U.S. Navy aircraft carrier USS Carl Vinson is on its way back to waters near the Korean peninsula for a new set of military exercises. The vessel had been stationed in the region last month during joint military drills between the US and South Korea. It's expected to enter waters to the east of the Korean peninsula next week. Two other aircraft carriers, the Ronald Reagan and the Nimitz, are also expected to arrive in the region next week. US Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said the drills have no specific target, while South Korean analysts say the US will not recklessly trigger a military attack.